Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The First for Us. This is a Last of Us podcast where we recap the HBO show of the game of the same name. If you've watched this before, it's been a week. I was out of town yet again. Shout out to my Irish peeps. I can't stop going. So Justin and Kevin have graciously allowed us to do what we did at the beginning of the season and do a double episode. So we are covering episodes 8 and 9, which is the wrap up of season 1 here. I am John, and with me as always is
Justin
and Kevin.
Fantastic. So like I mentioned, we are covering episodes 8 and 9. Episode 8, When We Are in Need, and episode 9, Look for the Light, which wrapped up an incredible season 1. If this is your first time joining us, welcome, I guess. Feel free to watch the previous episodes. We are going to talk about both episodes, give our thoughts, general commentary on it, and then we're going to move into winners and losers of the episodes and the season overall, followed by a quick discussion of what we want to see or what we hope to see in season 2, since it has been renewed for not only a second season, but I was told today a third season has been confirmed. So exciting things ahead. So let me do what we usually do and get the boring part out of the way. I'll read the synopsis for the 2 episodes, and then we'll dive right in. So episode 8, When We Are in Need, Ellie leaves Joel, who is still recovering, to hunt for food. After shooting a deer, she tracks the wounded animal and encounters a preacher, David, and his fellow hunter, James. She trades her deer for penicillin. David reveals the man who stabbed Joel was a member of his group. Ellie leaves to treat Joel. The next day, she discovers David and his men have followed her to seek vengeance on Joel. She flees to draw them away, but is captured. At David's camp, he reveals he has been feeding his group human flesh. Meanwhile, Joel awakens and tortures some of David's men into telling him Ellie's whereabouts. David and James attempt to kill Ellie, but she kills James and escapes. David hunts her down and tries to assault her, but she overpowers him and kills him with a meat cleaver. Joel finds a traumatized Ellie outside the cult's burning community center and comforts her. What an episode. And then episode 9, Look for the Light. In a flashback, Ellie's mother, Anna, is bitten by an infected as she gives birth to Ellie. She is found by Marlene, who hesitantly takes Ellie and kills Anna at the latter's request. In the present day, Joel tells Ellie of his failed suicide after Sarah's death. Firefly soldiers capture Ellie and knock Joel unconscious. After Joel awakens in a hospital, Marlene explains that doctors are preparing Ellie for surgery to produce a cure, and Joel realizes the procedure will kill her and protests. Marlene orders Joel to be taken away, but he kills his escorts, several soldiers, and the surgeon. Joel carries an unconscious Ellie from the hospital. Marlene intercepts them, stating there's still time to find a cure, but Joel shoots and kills her. When Ellie awakens, Joel lies and tells her the Fireflies had already failed to develop a cure from other immune people. As they hike to Jackson, Ellie insists Joel swear his story about the Fireflies is true. When he does so, she replies, okay. And thus ends the glorious first season of The Last of Us. Gentlemen, your thoughts, where do you want to begin?
Oh man, that cult episode. Cannibalism. I just can't get down with a cannibalism story. It's just, ugh. But man, I thought they did it well. I thought it made for some really interesting and kind of nail biting television when Ellie's in their clutches and he's trying to turn her, and that's not going to work, but as soon as she sees the air, it's like, oh man, dude, this has got to be over at this point. Like, there's no way you're turning her now.
No, and again, another episode without any infected. This show, for as much as it's sold as a zombie apocalypse show, is not about zombies, really. The cordyceps are always there, but again, it's a trope that's been used before, but so successfully on the show is the biggest and the most scariest enemy you face are other people. And this the second to last episode just, epitomized that. Justin?
I guess I have one word to describe both episodes, and that is savagery.
Okay.
Like, that's, especially dealing with the cult and with David and stuff like that. Am I the only person that kind of picked up on the cannibalism quite early? Like, even at the beginning of that episode, when he was sitting there giving kind of the eulogy for that little girl's father and stuff like that, and she's like, well, why can't we bury him? And like, everybody kind of gets awkward. And I'm like, are they going to eat him? And then like even like when the guy brings the tray of like, oh, this is venison, and then everybody's like sitting there eating it, and I'm like, I'll bet that's that guy. Like I picked up on the cannibalism vibes really early, so like none of it was like super shocking to me or anything like that. I mean, I guess the whole kind of what I got from David more than anything else is just the religion was just all bullshit. It was just his attempt to maintain like power among the group, and the whole kind of, I guess, pedophilia aspect of, when he was attacking Ellie and stuff like that, the things that he was saying to her, and just then she absolutely went savage on him. And that's why I said like both episodes, from what Ellie does to David and then what Joel does in the hospital, is just savagery. And I mean, I have not seen a hospital get tore up like that since Terminator 2.
Well,
And it was
as soon as David slapped that girl during dinner, I was like, oh, he's a rapist. I can just tell he's all about the power. He's gonna end up mutilating or traumatizing somebody in this episode. And I was really sad to see it was Ellie. But I have a confession. Like I was just scrolling and I had the whole cannibalism thing ruined for me before I even watched the episode. And I don't mean Wikipedia. I mean, it was ruined to me by just by a spoiler I wasn't trying to see. But that didn't make it any less compelling. It was still a really good episode. And even though they were kind of tough to watch in parts, I thought they were extremely well done.
I must be the only one who doesn't just naturally pick up Dahmer vibes, because not once during that did I did not have that sense. I did not go, oh, they must be eating each other. I also didn't think, oh, that guy's a pedophile. Like, I definitely thought, oh, this guy is nuts. Like, he's going to be, when they portrayed him. And, I hate to cast all religion in this light, but usually when you have like one guy who's preaching in a post-apocalyptic situation, it's never actually that they're all about what, say Christ has said. It's usually, I'm going to use this to maintain crazy control and put cult like shit on there. So that's where I was kind of like, okay, I think this is where this is going to go. So to me, the discovery they were eating their people I was still taken aback. It seemed like it fit. It was in line. It was still a little jarring, especially when Joel sees the bodies hanging there. And then in terms of like when he starts, I guess, making the moves on Ellie, if you will, that was still so jarring and upsetting. I guess I maybe should have seen it coming. I should have seen that depravity a little bit closer, but I will say one of the key takeaways from that episode, or at least actually, let me say two key takeaways from the episode. The first is what David says to Ellie when he says, you have a violent heart or a bad heart, the aspersions he casts on her, that Bella Ramsey plays so well in taking that in and kind of realizing like, oh shit, I think he's right. And something we've talked about on this show with previous episodes, when we've seen her kind of toying with the infected, we've seen her take perhaps a little pleasure of Joel beating up the Fedra agent. We've seen instances where, yes, she might be a little aggressive, a little crazy, a little vengeful. So when he says that and she kind of recognized it, I thought, oh shit. And then at the very end, when she goes, to use Justin's word, full on savage, and I was almost clapping, cheering when she was just hacking away. I was just like, yeah, baby, grind that meat. Like, yes. The end of that though, when, Joel picks her up and embraces her, and now you can see the difference. You saw, or at least I kind of think I saw a little bit of that face when she shot the guy in Kansas City, right? She was a little like, oh shit. And then that look of like, oh shit, which then goes into the next episode where she's just like distracted, not really there. Like, then you can see that really, really took a toll on her. Which, we could talk about, is she an adult now? How long has she been an adult? She hasn't exactly lived the life of a carefree kid. It was still lovely to see her share that moment with Joel with the giraffe and have at least some sort of lighthearted, maybe they'll play Boggle one day. I don't know, but it was just very sad to see both episodes, her just kind of, lost for her childlike wonder.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it was total, I don't know, just from the very beginning of that episode, I got total David Koresh vibes.
Yeah.
out of that whole thing. Like when he's trying to comfort the daughter and be like, "Oh, I'll be your father now," and I'm like, no me gusta. But it's the whole like relationship. I mean, you see what we've seen with the whole buildup of the season from when at the beginning of the season, Joel really doesn't want to have anything to do with Ellie. She's nothing but cargo, and sometimes cargo gets lost. And at the beginning of the season, if she would have gotten lost or if they would have lost her, I'm not 100% sure how much Joel would have cared. But you see that transition over the course to now, where now he is willing to do anything and everything to protect her. And we see that in the final episode. Like that is the fruition of everything that has been building up with their relationship, to where he can finally confide in her about his deepest, darkest secrets, about losing Sarah and wanting to take his own life. And, basically telling her without directly telling her, she's what keeps him going.
And it was
And
well
then,
written, and it was very natural and didn't
there's a
feel
very emotional
forced.
scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
A very emotional scene. And then just when he realizes, unless I do something, she's gonna die, and he burns the fucking house. Like he collapses the house of cards, destroys everything just to save her. And to me, it was a brilliant ending. Like I really can't think of a better ending that they could have come up with. I know, John doesn't like cliffhangers, but I thought that the way that it kind of ended was a perfect kind of segue into, into what's going to be the second, the third season coming up. Is, she honestly, I mean, you can tell, and even from the very beginning when she woke up in the back of the truck, like she doesn't really believe what he's saying. I think deep down she knows what he did, but she has to accept his version of the facts until she knows better. And so she's just like, okay. And then, yeah, it was kind of weird how short that kind of cut off everything, but I think it'll make a lot more sense going into season 2.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about it, and I said, would you have done anything different? And she's like, nope, absolutely not. I would have done it exactly the same way. And I said, yeah, I would have too. And my wife was seeing somewhere where, it was, if people took a poll, if they were a parent, they probably would have done it the same and they had no problem with what happened. And then if they weren't a parent, they were more likely to, possibly say, okay, no, Joel was wrong. Like that wasn't really the way to go. And I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking, well, what about the world and what about this stuff? But I mean, his parent, instincts took over, and there's no way short of killing him, he was going to, do anything different. And I get it.
Even if you take the parent aspect away from it, let's just look at Joel's last 20 years. What exactly is he trying to protect? What's the world ever done for him except screw him over? And primarily by the world, I mean people. The cordyceps haven't really screwed Joel. A human shot his daughter and himself, right? A human had put him in the DZs or the QZs and have given him all that throughout all of this trip. I mean, they had, again, minimal interactions with infected humans. Have, they're the ones who attacked him. The raider stabbed him. It's been nothing but humanity. The fireflies clearly try to get after him. Every time he's run into a person, they have been awful and have just been responsible for his lowest points. What does he owe the world?
Right.
He's an older man. He took his first daughter. Now he's got, a replacement daughter, which I'm sure you don't want to make it that simple, but they literally had the conversation when he's like, I think you guys have been friends and you're like this alike, but you're a little different here and this and that. So yeah, when it comes down to it, what does Joel, parent or not, what does he want? Oh, I'm going to lose this now one thing that's a positive in my life for a potential to have a cure. Not for nothing. We can dive into the science of it, but kind of fucking doctor, you don't even test first anything. You're so sure that what you've got is going to work. You got one person, the only person you know who's immune, and you're going to kill him on this chance. You don't want to run some tests first? maybe do some blood work first. You don't want to try anything else. You're immediately going to, well, we're going to cut her brain, kill her, and hope for the best. What the fuck? So yeah, why would Joel be like, yeah, I'll roll with that plan?
Well, and here's my thing with that whole argument. Like, when Marlene was sitting there telling Joel about, oh, well, because the cordyceps, they've been in her since birth, and they, the communication aspect of the cordyceps is what makes the other people, the other infected not bite her or anything. Is that's what makes her immune. And it's like, well, if all they're after is the communication aspect of the cordyceps, which we've seen demonstrated several different times throughout the show, can they not just get other samples of cordyceps and replicate that? Like, why do they have to tear Ellie apart? And I guess that's one thing that I didn't understand from this episode, where, if that's all you're after is just the communication aspect, so that you can implant that in other people, so that humans don't get attacked by cordyceps anymore, then you should be able to find that from any sample of cordyceps, not just from Ellie.
I was trying to be super generous and say, how long between strapping her to a gurney and deciding you were going to kill her with a surgery, how long did that take you? Because it was the period of time that Joel was unconscious. So what's generous? 6 hours? I'll bet that's way too much.
Way too much.
3 hours? That's probably even still too generous. But I'll tell you what, I'll give you the 3 hours. It took you 3 hours to decide that killing your patient was the best way possible to try and find a cure, but you're like, come on. Like, if I'm Joel, there's no way I'm letting them go through that.
But I'm not 100% convinced, though, that that wasn't Marlene's plan from the beginning.
Well, regardless, though, again, this is the instance. I remember it was a few episodes ago where I said, see, this is why I don't like getting certain details, because when you start getting too detailed, it all starts unraveling because you start poking holes in it. Yeah. So the science behind where they could or couldn't, that part, it's whatever. It's more to a point, like Kevin, you were saying and mentioning, like, you have basically one shot here. Yeah. You don't want to try some shit first. You don't want to, like, hey, by the way, blah, blah, blah. Because the other thing is Marlene's like, she essentially tells Joel, like, Ellie would sacrifice it. She would make this choice. And you can tell Joel's like, yeah, you're probably right. Because they had this conversation right before when he was like, look, we don't have to go. We can go right back to Tommy. We can live a good life. No one has no blah, 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 blah. And she's like, no, we're going to see this at the end. So he knows she would have made the choice. But I think the kicker is, again, like, but can't you give it a little bit of time first? Mm-hmm. And then the second part, which we can get into as well, is like, but did you give her the choice? Again, her agency is just taken away from her. You're assuming she's going to say yes, and you're just going to kill her, for what you call the greater good. But, like, okay, like, is that fair? Should she, to your point, Justin, like, did she always know that? Did Marlene always know that? How big of a liar was she? Because she promised Anna, her mom, that she would take care of her. Was she just biding her time the entire, you know what I mean? Like, how good of a person is Marlene?
Well, and I think when Marlene made the promise to Anna, which is played by Ashley Johnson, by the way, the person who voiced the original Ellie, and also was in Growing Pains, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hold on. Don't just give her the Last of Us credit. She's got a bunch of credits there.
She's got a bunch of credits. Avengers, the Growing Pains, everything like that. But so I was really glad to see her in that episode as playing Ellie's mom. But even like when Marlene was promising Anna, yes, I'm going to take care of her, I think she meant it at the time. But I think when she sent Ellie off with Joel and Tess, I think at this point, just kind of then retrospecting way back to the beginning of the season, I think Marlene knew what was going to happen and knew what it was going to take. It was willing to sacrifice Ellie to make that objective, to find that cure and make that objective. And that's my whole thing with that, is not giving, like, she even says during that, we didn't tell her anything. She knows nothing. She's not going to feel anything. She's not going to know anything ever happened. Screw you. You should have at least told her everything and let her make that choice for herself. Because if she would have sat there and be like, okay, you know what, I'll do it. Okay, then that's one thing, but just to, like, lie to her and then just, like, put her to sleep
she's basically a Fedra agent. We saw that in one of the episodes. Lie to the kid and tell him, yeah, we're going to give you some medicine, everything's going to be fine, and then you murder him. So the Fireflies are nothing better than a Fedra agent. They're doing the exact same shit. Also,
by the way,
Marlene. That wasn't Marlene in that scene.
No. But what I'm saying is the Fedra agent told that little
Fedra,
boy
when they were
right.
like, "Oh yeah,"
and then
we're gonna
Marlene
give you toys and everything, and then they just put him to sleep. Yeah, and Marlene did the same thing,
right.
or wanted to.
And by the way, how stupid are you to send Joel with 2 guys, knowing that he got her all the way across country? Like, you sing his praises, you say you got now you are indebted to him. Okay, you're not acting like it, but whatever. I suppose that's your way of saying I won't kill you. But then you send him off alone with 2 of your guys and just I mean, what is this, Austin Powers? I'll close the door and nothing will happen. Bye.
Yeah.
Dog, can you put someone in the front? Why does everybody put people on the back as if you can't turn around and get the one guy and use him as a human shield? It's the okay, for everyone listening, if you ever find yourself having to transport a prisoner, okay, one in the front and one in the back, sandwich that motherfucker. Like, it's as soon as she goes, walk him out. And then the classic, like, if he does anything, shoot him. I go, these motherfuckers are already dead. You might as well just hand him the gun because he's already dead.
Red shirt.
Walking down the staircase, I was like,
I thought he was going to get him the first time when they're both like, "Why keep walking?" I'm like,
just assume it all went to plan. What?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Now let's talk about that scene though, because I will say 2 things of that scene. One, it again made me feel very video gamey because it felt very video gamey. But the way they shot it in the cinematography, as well as the music and the slow, I thought it was done incredibly well. I don't know, what were your feelings? Did you when you saw that, did you think, yes, Joel, good guy, or did you think this motherfucker is flat out just murdering people and he's kind of a villain?
It felt a little Punisher to me, just a little. Okay. But again, like, what do you expect him? What does anyone expect him to do? Like, the doctor straight up said, "I'm not going to allow you to take her." And, he basically told Marlene the same thing he was probably thinking when he killed the doctor. You guys are never going to not pursue her. So bye-bye now. What do you expect the guy to do?
I don't know. He did shoot that one guy who was clearly surrendering. They showed there was that one clip. The guy clearly was putting his gun down.
Everyone's a threat until they're not a threat anymore. That is the mode he was in.
But he didn't shoot the nurses. He let them live.
Because they weren't a threat to him.
Maybe. I hope. We'll jump ahead. Spoilers.
And that's not a gender thing. Like, it's just they had nothing to fight back with, and they were clearly not interested in being combatants.
Here's my hope for season 2. The nurses come back, and they're the good.
But I mean, that guy could have easily turned into a combatant. That was his thought process. And I'm sure that's what it was for the doctor too. It was like, all right, well, I need to get the nurses to cooperate, and he's never going to stop pursuing Ellie. So, he gets a double tap.
I mean, the doctor did pull a scalpel on him. So.
Yeah, and I get that too. But I think it was more the other 2 things.
What was that guy going to do when he pulled that scalpel? What are you doing? Do you see what this man looks like and what he's got? Just in the way he so casually was just like, "Bah." Unhook it. I was like, God damn. I'm like, yeah, I just run. At this point, just run. It's not worth it. Run away from this man who is murdering everyone with the flick of a wrist. And the way he was just picking up other weapons, I was like, good God.
And it's, anybody who knows me knows I have a soft spot for the anti-heroes and the sympathetic villains. Batman, Magneto, the Punisher, stuff like that. So, I'm sorry. Hold on.
How does Batman fit in with the other 2?
He's anti-hero.
Batman's not an anti-hero. Batman's a hero.
Batman is an anti-hero. Batman is an anti-hero. But
that's a separate.
That's a discussion for another.
That is a slightly different discussion.
Anywho,
we could film a whole episode just on that. But anyway, what I was getting at was I really think that the whole prospect of losing Ellie just made Joel snap.
Yeah.
And I really don't think that he was not in control at that point. I mean, it was if you want to throw another anti-hero in there, Wolverine, it was just Wolverine style, just rage.
How was he an
And
anti-hero?
Oh, come on, John. He's definitely
okay, come on, John. You have to admit
anyway.
you're the Marvel guy. I'm the DC guy. You're the Marvel guy. You have to admit Wolverine's just full of sadistic rage.
He's
And
a
I love him for it. I love him for it, but that's just what that whole thing felt like to me. Like he was just full out not in control of himself anymore. And I can't necessarily fault him for that. Yeah, he did really horrible things and he killed a lot of people, but were his motives pure? To me, I think so. So
it sounds like neither one of you are anti-Joel. Neither one of you see Joel as a villain or
I'm
Team
not
Joel.
anti-Joel.
Team
No.
Joel. Team Joel.
See, it's interesting because we've had this conversation even on Grey 17. I specifically have been kind of leading the charge about like, what do we owe other people, right? What's the point of being in a civilization? What's the point of being a part of a society? You know, I try to have a more utilitarian outlook on like, you know, the trolley problem. It sounds like you guys are saying, no, I'd kill the 6 people. I'd save the one person because they mean something to me. Which again, don't get me wrong. There's merit there because, you know, you can say what you want until you're in the situation, right? Like I could say,
Right.
yeah, I would save 10 people over one person, but if that one person happened to be, say, my mom or my nephew or my niece, it's a different calculus. I get that. But I also, I guess, would say like, I don't totally absolve Joel though. I don't want to say that he was right necessarily. I want to kind of say he made a tough choice that I think he would make again.
Mhm.
I think we should also still be able to acknowledge that he did flat out murder what appeared to be like 15 people.
I get it.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying the guy is a saint. I'm saying I get it. I understand. It makes sense to me. And I could envision a scenario under which I would be driven to feel the same way that he did. Not necessarily because it was the altruistic way of going about it, but it was very understandable from a, you know, human instinct standpoint. He didn't find what they were doing credible. He wasn't about to let them sacrifice her, and he snapped, like Justin said. I also agree. I don't think he was completely in control of himself, you know, in all aspects, but he made the decision that this was not going to happen under his watch. He was not going to watch another perceived daughter die when he could have done something about it. It's extremely understandable.
But
do you
one thing
think?
I think Joel was in the wrong about, and what is going to come back to bite him in the ass, is lying to Ellie about what happened.
Yeah.
Well, but
And
before we get to that,
because she's going to find out. She's going to find out, and
maybe.
it's going to be bad.
Well, so you know, before we get into that part though, because we just chided earlier, you know, Marlene and the Fireflies not allowing Ellie to make a choice. I think you can say the same thing. Joel didn't really give her a choice either. Again, he just straight up murdered
Very
everybody.
No,
And so
true.
now maybe Marlene had said, "Oh, it's still not too late," you know, which implies there are other doctors, which would make sense. But Joel has closed that book by murdering Marlene,
Yeah.
so he didn't give her a choice there either. But to your point about, you know, will she find out? Will she won't find out? I'm guessing it's probably going to be a part of season 2 and part of the second game. But quite frankly, what I took from that was she already knows the answer, right?
Yeah.
Like she, you know, her face. And again, this show has had incredible acting, and I think Bella Ramsey knocked it out of the park this episode and last. I think these were 2 of her strongest episodes. You know, that face clearly says, "I'm giving you a chance to be honest with me. Is what you said true?" And he looks her in the eyes and says, "Yep," lies right to her. And I think her okay is like, okay, like I'll believe you because I want this to stay like this because I love you. But you know, I think I'm also disappointed. I said this a couple episodes I think it was when they were going to get out of Kansas City. I said, there's going to come a time Joel's going to disappoint Ellie. It has to happen.
Yeah.
That's how storytelling works. You know, they're building this relationship. They're going to be on this path, but eventually sometime a choice is going to need to be made. Joel's going to make it, and it's going to be the wrong choice. It is going to disappoint Ellie. I thought it would come sooner. I thought it would be in a different spot, but here it is. This is the choice that Joel has made that has clearly disappointed Ellie. And I think, and it ties into a theme I wanted to talk about a little bit. Again, when I said about Ellie's being mature, being an adult, I think, when you're a kid, when you're talking to your parents, I think a lot of times, or at least let me speak for myself, I guess, a lot of times you can get mad at your parents or whatever. It's not the lie that you're mad at. It's not that you lied to me, because a parent will justify a lie, right? It's that you didn't think I could handle it. It's that you didn't see me as almost like an equal, and you patronized me by lying to me because you didn't think I could handle the truth. And I think that hurts more than the lie. It's not that you lied to me. It's that you didn't think I could trust it. You don't have any faith in me. I mean, however you want to couch it. And I think that now, Ellie, through an unbelievable amount of shit, I would hope has proven to Joel that I'm your equal. I'm not your daughter that needs to be protected and saved. I'm not your cargo that is a burden on you. We're co-partners in this. Not for nothing, I've saved your fucking life very recently. You know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't for me, you'd have been dead, dog. So like, I thought we were on the up and up. Her whole life, everyone's been treating her as if she's not real, as if she's, the only other person that did, Riley, she had to kill. Joel's the only one, the second one to come along and say, finally, like, I see you, I value you, we're on a level playing field. And then in the end, he still disappoints her and lies to her and treats her like a child. That, to your point, Justin, is where I think it'll blow up. I don't think she'll find out it was a lie, because I think she already knows it's a lie. I think that it'll come to the surface and she'll confront him with this lie. Now let's jump a little in terms of what we think is going to happen in the future.
But if she realized, or he told her, what is she going to do? She's going to find another set of fireflies with a doctor, and it could take her eons to do that. But she's going to be dead set on doing that and hate Joel for every second of the rest of her existence. What purpose does all that serve?
I think she loves Joel. I think there might be a part of her that will give him his Jackson, right? Look, your brother's there, a good life's there. The world has kicked the shit out of you for 20 years. Let's maybe let you have a little joy back. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's whatever. I don't know. Let's give you something. In the meantime, I'm also trying to work to maybe communicate with those fireflies. We don't have to blow up right now. You've been through a lot. Let's chill for a bit while I get this other second act in gear. And then when I have the opportunity to make the choice for myself, if that choice is I want to go with the fireflies, now we can have this conversation about like, hey, I'm making this choice. And then when Joel inevitably speaks up and says he doesn't think you should do it, then you're like, yeah, like you didn't think I should have done it with Marlene? You're going to tell me the Raiders came again? You know what I mean? Like, I think she's aware that, the nicest thing she can do with Joel is give him the little happiness while she still tries to figure out her other options. So, do
you think she would have been most upset about him killing Marlene, or?
No, I think it's the lie.
Okay.
Because I don't know how much Ellie knows about Marlene and Anna's relationship. I don't know if we ever got that Marlene told her, like, I was there when you were born. Because, if I remember from early, she didn't know Marlene when she was tied up, when the fireflies had her. And she didn't know that Marlene was the one that put her into the federal school. So I don't really think she has a strong relationship with Marlene. I don't think she'd be happy that she's dead, especially since Marlene was the one who was like working the whole cure angle. So like, I think she'd be upset about that, but I don't think she has any personal attachment to Marlene. Justin, what do you think about, her loss of innocence, now she's an adult, how Joel's treated her, her agency, any thoughts on any of that?
I mean, you're going to definitely see Ellie become more independent going forward. And I guess, if we're talking more about going into the future a little bit, I think that, yeah, she's definitely, her innocence was lost long ago. Like, and the question is, did she ever really have it? She always proved to be kind of someone who was, I guess, maybe the facade of independence, but then she became completely, reliant on Joel when she even multiple times said, I can't do this without you, especially after he got stabbed and fell off the horse, saying, I can't do this without you. But I think at this point in her life, I think that she's proven herself by taking care of Joel, by encountering and dealing with everything that she had to deal with over the last 2 episodes. I think that she's proven herself that she is strong, she is independent, and I think that she's going to assert her independence going forward, and that's probably going to create a lot of clashes with Joel in terms of he's still going to be overly protective of her no matter what, but then she's going to start asserting herself, and she's it's going to cause problems.
Yeah, that point where he got stabbed, I think that was a flip of their relationship. Up until then, he had been protecting her. He had, guided her. He had, watched out for her. And then from then on, she clearly was watching out for him, right? She drug him in. She stitched him up. She got the penicillin, whatever. But I think the dynamic of their relationship flipped too. And I think you can see that in some of the conversation they have about, well, let's go. We can get out of here. Hey, do you want to play Bago? Hey, do you, how about some puns and whatever? And, I got just a little of a sense of, her kind of attitude or her responses were a little almost, early season Joel. She didn't have the same, I guess, disposition there. And so it seemed like there was a reversal of their situations almost.
Well, and that's where you even mentioned it. I think we mentioned it during that episode. That's where the game flips and you start playing as Ellie and not Joel. And it makes perfect sense for the series then to take that flip. And it's more of Ellie's perspective than Joel's perspective. And I think it was done brilliantly.
I guess anything else we want to talk about either episode before we move into our winners and losers?
Did anyone else cringe big time when she put the shot of penicillin directly into the wound? I'm pretty sure that's not how you do it.
She didn't know what she was doing.
I
She
know.
even said that herself.
I was just like, oh my God, that's making me cringe even worse.
At least it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was,
for sure.
It was a little more incredible that Joel was able to get healthy enough to, again, murder like 5 fucking guys in the craziest way possible. That's why I feel like Marlene really undersold when she was like, man, I had 5 dudes protecting me and I barely made it. How the fuck did you get hit? Like, how did you just get here by yourself? Which again goes back to Kevin's point of, so your answer to that, you have admitted and recognized that you were blown away by the fact that this man by himself managed to get this girl all the way here. And your answer is, you two guys just walk behind him. Make sure you
One word. Like I said, one word: savagery.
What did you think was going to happen? Yeah. So maybe it's a good thing she's gone. And then maybe you can see why the Fireflies are not exactly winning. This is the leadership. This is the leadership they have at top. So, all right. Anything else, Kevin, Justin, anything you got on the episode that we didn't cover?
No.
All right. A fantastic first season. Just incredible. All of it was good. It's crazy to think episode 3 seems so long ago with Bill and Frank. Seems like such a different time ago. But I am pumped. Before we get into Winner Losers, though, I wanted to ask you guys 2 questions. And I didn't tell you about this before we started recording, so I get genuine answers. 2 things. So 1, how do you rate this first season against first seasons of other shows all time? And then 2nd, where do you think this ranks in the pantheon of HBO shows? I'll leave it just the HBO shows instead of, how good you think this is all time. So let's start with compare this first season to any other first season. Kev, what do you think?
I'm trying to think of another show that I've enjoyed the first season of this much. Strange New Worlds comes to mind immediately. That's been a really good one. Game of Thrones was really good the first season. I'm not a prolific HBO watcher, so I haven't seen a ton of HBO shows, but this I would say was I would say it was better than the first season of Game of Thrones by a little bit.
Okay.
But this is very highly ranked. It was very enjoyable. This isn't always my type of show. I am definitely a sci-fi heavy fan, but at the same time, this being more of a horror drama type type show, it's not always one that I will gravitate to. But immediately when I heard it was coming out, I was like, oh man, I gotta watch that. I'm sure it'll be really good. Oh wait, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are in that. Oh, even better. That's gonna be great.
How do you think it compared to The Mandalorian's first season?
Yeah, The Mandalorian is really good. I think it's unfair to ask me because I'm probably always going to go to the sci-fi, and Star Trek and Star Wars have been really early favorites of mine, going back to being a very, very little guy. But
it's safe to say you think it's up there. It's a top.
Without a doubt, it's got to be top 10, especially of non-comedy series.
Justin, where do you think this first season fits in compared to other first seasons? I'll throw a couple more out there that are pretty famous. The Sopranos first season usually gets really good plaudits. Breaking Bad's first season usually gets really good plaudits. Lost, really good plaudits. The Wire, the fact that you're not fans of any of these shows is fucking incredible.
Seen a single one of those.
Okay, so the only one out of those that you've listed is I've seen Breaking Bad. I've never watched Sopranos. I've never watched The Wire. And I know I can see the steam pouring out.
I need to watch The Wire.
I've
known that for years. I need to watch.
I've heard a lot of good things about him, and I'm not necessarily objected to doing it. I just have never done it, just like Babylon 5. But I honestly, in terms of like from what I've seen, I really struggle to find a show, and I'm going to throw my favorite, Battlestar Galactica, right in there. I'm struggling to find a show that hits every head the way that The Last of Us did in its first season. Game of Thrones was good. There's other shows that are good. House of the Dragon is very divisive. I quite enjoyed it. Not everybody did. But really, I think just in terms of sheer entertainment and sheer storytelling, I really think that this is probably this has to crack the top 5 of my favorite shows.
Well, let me follow up before I begin in my second question. Follow up to the first question, though. Is it unfair for this show compared to maybe some of those other shows we're talking about? Because this source material was already there, right? It's not as if this was a brand new original idea for TV. That they already had the game. The game was already right there. So, and they stuck to it, as we've learned through the inside of the episodes, pretty close. In fact, they only added certain places. So does it give it an unfair advantage to, a show like, let's say, The Sopranos, which again, you guys haven't watched, which is fucking incredible, but which is a wholly original idea right there on the screen, versus this, where it's like, well, we're adapting something, because Game of Thrones is also an adaptation.
Oh. Well, and I, honestly, I think that starting out as a video game, I think put the show at a disadvantage, because we've seen a lot of video game adaptions, throw out Mortal Kombat, throw out, Resident Evil, throw out, all the different, I'm not going to step on Battleship, which is apparently a classic to some people. I don't know who, but some people like it. But I'm saying, like, a lot of the game adaptations that we've seen over the past doesn't really have a great track record.
No.
And I think that finally The Last of Us was able to actually break that mold. And because of the sheer storytelling that's in the game, and I think that's a very important thing to hit on, is it's the storytelling within the game that makes it great, not the gameplay itself. Because there's issues with the gameplay, and as people, like I said, I still haven't gotten out of Pittsburgh yet. And I'm pissed about that. But it's there's you can sit there, you can mock gameplay or anything like that all you want to, but it's the sheer amount of storytelling within that game that makes it great. And I think that's where we're kind of in a new era of video games, where a lot of games are heavy into story, less on mechanics and gameplay and more on telling a story. And I think that's where we're hitting a new stride with that. And I think that's where, Druckmann's kind of genius comes into play, to where he took his original story and just elevated it in a brand new level, to where, he even said in one of the very early episodes, if it's going to be the same as what we happened in the game, then we're just going to leave what happened in the game. But if we can improve it, then that's where we're going to deviate. And I think that he took his original model and just expunged on it so well that he created something even better than I wonder if he even expected.
Firefly was another show that came to my mind, that because that's not a super heavy sci-fi, like it's certainly not a Star Trek or even a Star Wars, and it's I feel like it's on par, probably even slightly better than that, although I like that ensemble cast so much, it's hard for me to say that a cast of two exceptional actors is better than a group of like 7 or 8 fantastic actors. But this is a show where I would watch it again, and I'm sure that I will, but it's not going to be one because of the heavier content that I'm going to want to watch a lot. But that's not the fault of the show. That's not a statement about the quality by any means.
Well, let me alter my second question, since you nerds don't watch classically good television that everyone fucking agrees is good television. Right. So instead of ranking it against other HBO shows you haven't watched, let me then say, okay, how do you think HBO ranks it in terms of its current shows? So if HBO had to say, okay, here are our 5 most important shows, or 3 most important shows, because again, I don't know how much HBO you guys are watching. Let's say 3 most important shows currently. Where do you think they slot in The Last of Us?
Number 1.
I hope it's number 1. I mean, you're right, Justin. House of the Dragon's been pretty divisive, to the point where it's been kind of at the bottom of my, we'll probably watch it list, because a couple of the things I've heard about it have turned me off, and I don't know. I may
it's worth watching.
To skip it, but okay, well that means something.
It's worth watching.
It's still Game of Thrones.
You could be honestly, you could make an argument where you could interchange Game of Thrones and The Last of Us as 1 and 2. But if me personally, I would give Last of Us number 1, Game of Thrones number 2.
Have either of you seen Succession?
No.
Okay, great. I say because it's about to premiere its last season, and it is a.
But I've heard great things about it.
A show about the Trumps. No, thank you.
Yeah, so I guess I would probably still give the nod to House of the Dragon. Again, it's still Game of Thrones. I didn't look, but I would be shocked if The Last of Us got more viewers than House of the Dragon. Again, for as much as, I'll admit there's the reviews for the first season, I would say still were more positive than negative. They weren't universal acclaim like the early seasons of Game of Thrones were. Yeah. But I think you knew that was going to happen going in anyways. Again, people, you're following up. There's so much behind Game of Thrones. So I think, again, HBO's ranking, I think House of the Dragon is also, I think, more important, because they're going to get way more seasons out of that, and they're going to get way more spinoffs from Game of Thrones. So I think Game of Thrones in and of itself is just HBO's linchpin currently. But I think it allows them to make shows like Last of Us or Barry, which is another great show. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have not watched. It is also about to wrap up. But I would think now currently Last of Us is probably like 1A.
I have heard a lot of people talking about White Lotus. So
White Lotus is fantastic.
I think you'd have to have that one on the list. My wife and I are currently, we watched the first episode of the Perry Mason show.
Yeah.
Did enjoy that. So I know we're going to run through that.
I will also espouse good things for White Lotus. I think HBO's top 5 right now. And again, you guys probably haven't seen this. I think House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, White Lotus, Succession, and Euphoria are probably their top 5 most important shows right now. some of those are ending. So Succession is ending. I think White Lotus is going to do at least one more season. They may or may not. Last of Us has 2 seasons. But anyways, I'm just going to turn this into, I think HBO makes the greatest television.
Actually, I hope Big Little Lies does another season, because I actually kind of like that one.
Which is a turn of fortune, because at one time, everyone couldn't stop talking about, the Netflix shows. And then for a little while there, it was Disney, and then that kind of fell off. And now it seems to be HBO with the biggest catalog right now for new shows.
I've been standing for HBO since '99 when The Sopranos aired. Sunday night HBO. Sunday nights, I know what I'm doing. Okay. Besides recording Grey 17, it's HBO, because that's where the good TV is. So,
okay.
All right. So John, I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You're a man of many talents, many gifts.
Thank you.
You work a lot. You play hockey. You play soccer. You podcast. When the fuck do you have time to sit around and watch as much TV as you
do?
Well, you'll notice I haven't mentioned a wife or a girlfriend or any children. So as a single gentleman with just a golden retriever to worry about, I have lots of time, in as much as I don't go to sleep until, midnight. It's a lot of free time that I don't have to delve. I guess I will say I used to spend a little more time in the gym. That is abated a bit, but I also will do this thing. I don't know if you guys do it. Now we're getting wildly off topic, but going through like binges. So I'll be like, oh man, I heard good things about the show. Like Yellow Jackets. I think I mentioned that to you guys. It's on Showtime. So I heard good things, and I caught a little glimpse, and I was like, oh. And then it was like a Friday afternoon. And I think I was making myself some lunch, and I was like, well, let me see if I like this. Fast forward 12 hours. Now it's Saturday, almost morning, because I just like, fuck. And I was just into the show. So that was my whole Friday and Friday night. So the shit like that will happen, where I'll just get into it, and I'll be like, whoa, and then I'll just watch the whole thing.
Fair enough.
Oh, one more HBO show to mention. I was just going through. John Adams was fantastic. And so I highly recommend that one if you can.
Oh, was that with
yes,
Laura Dern and Paul Giamatti?
Paul Giamatti, thank you. Yes, that was actually pretty well done.
It was good. What was that, like 2006?
I know.
It was. That was a.
Well, you're talking about Sopranos. That was 1999.
Listen, no, I get it. We can go through all of it. We just turn this. If you guys want to do the rest of this episode, we'll go through all of HBO's catalog, because I love HBO. I've said it many times. If I have to give up or pick only one thing, Netflix, Hulu, Disney, blah, 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 HBO is the one I refuse to give up. Not only do they continue to put out great stuff, but their catalog is second.
Actually, I would agree with that. If I could only have one streaming service, I'd probably do HBO.
I can't live without Disney because of the Star Wars content, and the Marvel content has occasionally been pretty good, and I have kids, so that makes Disney something that good luck giving that up, Daddy Kevin.
You're breeding,
it's not happening.
Yeah, listen, you're breeding two little nerds. So
well, and that's very purposeful, but I mean, when my 2-year-old's walking around with one of my old lightsabers, I'm like, yeah, I did something.
Daddy
until he gets hit and he starts crying over to one of us, and it's like, all right.
Or until Mallory starts giving him until Mallory starts giving him a Harry Potter wand.
Yeah, well, she's kind of soured on Harry Potter because of J.K. Rowling being a bigoted jerk, which I can't disagree, even though I do still like the series. But yes, J.K. Rowling sucks. But
anyway,
yes,
let's jump into our winners and losers somewhat quickly. If you haven't seen this before, we each take turns usually picking winners and losers of the episode that we've just watched. Now we've watched 2, so we'll have two of them. There are no rules. There are no criteria. It can be whatever you want. It could be, literally anything. So let's start with Kev. Kev, who you got? Who's your winner and your loser for these 2 episodes?
For When We Are in Need, my winner is the rest of the cult members.
Nice.
And my loser is David, because fuck that guy.
Fair.
And then for Look for the Light, I would say the winner is Ellie, and I would say the loser is Joel, because as you point out, Justin, I don't think this is going to be the last of hearing about The Big Lie, and I don't think it's going to go well for Joel.
Okay.
So for the first episode, for episode 8, I actually have the exact same thing as Kevin.
Okay.
But actually, for the finale, I have them flipped. I have my winner as Joel because he got exactly what he wanted, and that is Ellie Alda himself.
Okay.
And my loser is Ellie because her trust and her faith in Joel is shattered.
Or will be. Yeah. I get it.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so I think for the penultimate episode, I think my odd winner is going to be Ellie as well. I mean, I think I don't think you would want to go through that, but I think that cathartic chopathon she had at the very end seemed again, I don't know if enjoyable is the right word.
She was so traumatized though. It was horrible, but it was such good acting by Belle Ramsey.
It literally made me cheer. I was super pumped.
I get it.
That's
Until
why
she got outside and she broke down. I was just like, oh, this poor girl. Like, you're gonna be living with that for a long ass time.
Yeah. In the moment, that's why she's my winner. Overall, it won't be. My loser is going to be the horse. This poor asshole carried them over to the house, is stuck in the garage, clearly surviving on what appears to be fucking snow, just so he can get shot by some asshole who gets cleaved in the neck later. Just a terrible L for the horse in that episode. For the finale, I'm going to say my winner, and I'm going to stick with an animal theme, is the giraffes. I said it with the monkeys, another animal who has clearly got out and is living its best fucking life. I think one of the, keys I'm going to take away from this show and any show is that I think animals can't wait for us to die and kill ourselves because their lives get exponentially better when they get to just kind of roam free and do whatever they want.
Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to put the giraffes as the winners of the season finale. And I think, and maybe a tie with the nurses. I think the nurses surviving Joel's massacre, I think is a pretty big W. I think the loser of the episode, man, part of me really wanted to go, a little more serious and say someone like Joel. I think I would almost say Joel would be more of a loser. Just because I agree, Justin, I think this is what he wants, especially now. I think he got what he wants, but again, the way he got it, I don't think is going to, I just don't think it could sit right with him as well, right? We've seen him agonize over what he did with Tommy. We've seen him have that conversation when, Ellie was asking about, have you killed people? Did you kill people? I don't think he's going to be happy with how it had to be done. I think he hopes that the relationship that he'll have now with Ellie and living with Tommy and the community, I think can overcome that, but you'll still have that grief. You'll still have those disappointments. You'll still have to live.
I don't think he will.
So I guess maybe I'll stick with that. Maybe that's why he is the loser. I think it's one of those situations where, okay, you got what you want, but at what cost?
Yeah.
So, I think, okay, he's got Ellie now, but as we've all kind of alluded to, she clearly knows, or at least has an inkling that he's a fucking liar. And, so, your relationship is now a house of cards, just waiting for it to collapse. And then when it does, again, you have to, was it worth it? Again, I still think, to be honest, answering my own question, I think he would say, yeah, I think he would make the same choice over and over again. I just think it's going to be unfortunate that it'll come to an end. So, but that's my loser for the episode. Real quick, I wanted to do winners and losers for the season. Who are your winners and losers for the entire season? Justin, I see you thinking about it, so maybe we'll start with Kevin, unless Kevin is thinking about it, in which case I can start.
You start. Yeah, you start. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to take a page out of the Lane book and say the winners of the first season are the fans, us, the viewers, who got to ride this incredible journey with some of the top-notch acting talent we've seen in a while, which I hope and assume will be richly rewarded when Emmy season comes. An amazing visual show, right? The cinematography has been great. A fantastic writing, an unbelievable story, all of it. every piece of it. Sunday nights, being able to turn on HBO Max, in my case, not actual HBO Max, and watch this fantastic show over 9 episodes has been a gift. And I am happy to declare myself a winner. I am also going to say I am a loser from season 1 because I did not play the game before this started. I have held off from playing the game while we've been watching this thing. Now I am 100% going to go play the game now, and I'm hoping that it will still resonate and have the impact that it will now that I know what the story is going to be. And because I've managed to avoid spoilers for next season and the next game, I am now not in the know and have to sit and wait for probably a year or two to pick up this story. So I'm going to give myself double duty. I'm both a winner for getting to enjoy season 1 and a loser for not knowing what the hell is going to happen in season 2. So now, which one of you wants to follow that up with who your season 1 winners and losers are?
I think the losers is humanity. Just in general. Just
in our timeline or in their timeline?
In their timeline.
Okay, because
yeah, you can make the argument for both, but I'm going to say in their timeline, I think humanity in that era is definitely the losers. We devolved to our worst instincts, and it definitely shows throughout the entire season. Where anytime, with few exceptions, but anytime where humanity as a group has a chance to be better, we just fall into our own worst base instincts. So that's why I would kind of rule humanity as a loser of season 1. The winner is Neil Druckmann. I will give it to him to where he created a brilliant fucking universe. A heartfelt story, a very violent story, a very heartwarming story at times. I think the guy's a writing genius, and I think it definitely shows in the game from what I've played so far. But even more than that, it shows in this series, and it shows just his level of understanding of the human condition is awesome, and that's why I think Neil Druckmann is my winner of season 1 and one of my new favorite writers.
Do you want to give Craig Mazin any of that love? Any wins?
Absolutely, because I mean, yeah, Neil wrote it, but then it was Craig that had to kind of put it into fruition, So I definitely give them. I hope they continue to do more. I can't wait to see what they do in season 2 and 3, and I hope maybe they form a strong, team bond. And I would love to see what they do, post The Last of Us once this is all done.
Well, I say that because I'm going to give you nerds some more HBO watching, because Craig Mazin has done 2 projects that I've mentioned before that are right there on HBO that you can watch. Chernobyl, which a lot of people know about, and Station 11, which a lot of people don't know about, but should. Both of them are excellent. Both of them are made by Craig Mazin, and I would highly recommend both of them to you.
I've heard Chernobyl is really good. I have that marked on my list to watch. I just have not watched it yet.
I would really, so Station 11 is also a little post-apocalyptic thing. It's fantastic. In fact, when I watched, I think I mentioned this on our very first show, when I watched the first episode of Last of Us, I had just recently finished Station 11, and I was like, oh, I'm familiar with this vibe, and I'm here for it. So, all right, Kev. So I'll stop lecturing you guys on your lack of HBO awesomeness. Who you got for season 1's winners and losers?
I get that she was always destined to not be part of the series, but I really wish that Tess had been more of the episodes and more of the season. It was a character I really liked. It was a dynamic with Joel I really liked. I get that the entire dynamic of the show would have been different, but I liked the actress. I liked the character. It would have been nice to have her for a little while longer. But I get in this post-apocalyptic world that you're not destined for any particular character very long. So I would say that she was the loser. Winners, I got to go with what you said, John. I think we as the viewers are the winners, and honorable mention to Mr. Druckmann, but fantastic series. I'm really happy with it. it's hard to see how they build upon this for 2 more seasons, but I have every confidence that they'll be able to do that.
Yeah, fantastic show. Usually we end this with predictions for the next episode. Obviously, there is not a next episode yet. So we will do a bit of a prediction in terms of not what you think necessarily, but let's ask, what do you want to see in season 2? A couple episodes ago, I asked, did you want to see season 1 wrapped up? Did you want it to be its own thing? Did you want a cliffhanger? Did you want, now we've come to the end of season 1. What do you want to see in season 2? Let's start with Justin.
It's not necessarily what I want to see in season 2, but what I think we will see in season 2 is we're going to see a lot more. Ellie's going to adopt a lot more of Joel's savagery, I think. And I think we're going to see a lot more of Ellie just being a badass boss. And I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Kev?
I want to see more Pedro Pascal. I don't want there to be a 5 minutes and then he's out of the series. I'm hoping that's not the way this goes. I know we've, the three of us have talked even about the potential for there being, him leaving the series and it being, more Ellie centric. And it's not like the quality I think will go down significantly. I really enjoy Pedro Pascal, and I like the dynamic between the actors and the characters. And I would like to see that a little while longer if he is destined to be leaving the series, which I don't know anything for sure, but it would be a shame if we don't have some more of that dynamic a little while longer, at least.
Yeah, I echo that. That's what I want to see is their relationship. I mentioned, I think now he'll get, Ellie's maybe gift is, here's your happy time while I'm searching for my potential fireflies thing. I hope we get that. So I hope that, this first season we got them and they just met and there was tension. Then they had this arduous journey. I hope they get to sit in Jackson for a while and kind of get to live a good life. I hope Joel gets a little taste of normalcy again. Now, I don't want to see that for 9 episodes. Don't get me wrong. It's not very compelling television to see people just have a good day. But I could stand to have a couple episodes of it, 2 or 3, because I think you could put some of the Tommy dynamic in there. I think Tommy's going to have a kid. I think you can get some of that. So I think you can have maybe, let's say, 2 episodes in Jackson. So I'm looking forward to that because inevitably something terrible has to happen or some sort of, antagonizing incident has to happen. And then I'm sure Ellie's going to be back somewhere in some mix of the Fireflies. I'm positive we've not seen the last of the Fireflies. I guess I would add what I hope it doesn't delve into is I hope it doesn't turn into a 3-way Ellie Fireflies Fedra fight. She's the one, some Neo sort of, I'm the only one who's immune, but I don't care about that. The show is great again, because there's just enough of the world building and the science, but it's primarily the interpersonal relationships and, what it means to care for someone and what it means to, either have humanity, lose it or try to save it. So that's what I hope the heart of season 2 is. In fact, if I'm being real honest, I kind of wish they don't do a season 2. I kind of wish they would just this is it and this is good and that would be amazing. Now I know they made a second game and I think it got good reviews. So it sounds like there's probably a good story there. So I'm sure fast forward a year or 2, whatever, we're recording this, and I'm like, man, season 2 is even better than season 1. Who knows? But there's something sometimes to be said for an actual, contained story. I don't know. Again, talk about HBO real quick. I promise. Did you guys watch the Watchmen series on HBO?
Yes.
It was fantastic. And one of the best things about it was that they said, that's it. It's even as big as it was. And it won Emmys and nope, that's it. We're not making any more. It was one story. I've told it. That's all she wrote. Part of me kind of wishes The Last of Us would have been the same way. But again, they made a second game. So it is what it is.
But Kevin, you talking about Pedro Pascal makes me want to go back and watch Narcos now.
Narcos is great.
I may have to go back and watch Narcos.
Even Narcos Mexico. Great.
Yeah.
Another great one. Okay, well, that's a wrap on season 1, everybody. Any last thoughts? Anything you guys want to say before we cut for season 1?
I mean, I guess this was just a fun ride. I mean, it was just something crazy that, John, you had approached us about and being like, let's do this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have anything better to do on Tuesdays. So, it was a lot of fun to do, and I'm really glad that we did it. And I thank everyone for, all 4 of you who joined us along for the ride. And hope you guys enjoyed it. And just keep an eye out and see if we do any kind of Last of Us related content between season 1 and season 2. Who knows? So I'm sure we'll come up with something.
No, we were talking about doing a show on the gameplay, or a couple of ideas. So we may be doing this again at some point in the future, but it's been fun. It was a very good show. I enjoyed talking about this with the 3 of you. It's been a good way to have a nice small group dynamic that is fun to just nerd out for a little while. So thank you guys. I appreciate the invite and enjoy doing it.
This may be the first for us, but it's not the last for us. Stay tuned.
That is definitely true. Again, many thanks to anyone that's watched it or maybe is watching it now. Again, it's not going anywhere. So, who knows? People might be watching this in 6 months, a year, who knows? Either way, it has been fun. It's been great. It's been fun talking to you guys. It's always nice to talk to friends about something that you enjoy. We've already, again, espoused the greatness that the show is. So that's been a pleasure. And like these 2 guys said, I'm sure we'll come back with something between now and season 2. The plan is to pick up in season 2 and do this all over again. And in between, like Kev mentioned, I might play the game. And so maybe we'll come back and all of us can talk about what we thought about the game. Or maybe we'll just come back and I don't know, who knows? Talk about HBO shows that they finally watch. Anyways, what do you got, Kev?
Speaking of games, my sister-in-law gave me a hard time for not having a pun a couple episodes ago. So in the spirit of the I asked a Frenchman if he played video games. You know what he said? He said, "Wee."
Oh, Jesus. Oh my God. Really?
And with that, that's season 1 on the first for us. A Last of Us recap podcast. I have been John, and with me through this incredible journey has been
Justin
and Kevin.
Thank you again so much. Again, be on the lookout. If you hit subscribe to not only this show, but the Grade 17 show, you'll get an alert when we come back with anything. So until then, thanks much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, buddy.